Welcome to the University of Richmond and the continuation of our Jepson Leadership Forum series. We have a very special guest with us this evening, but before I introduce her, I'd like to do just a little bit of housekeeping up front to get us going. First of all, let me apologize for us being a little late starting. We were at a delightful dinner and we all got so involved in the conversation that we was like, oops, we need to get out and get over there. So please forgive us for being a little late starting this evening. I promise you it'll be worth the wait for you. Just a reminder, this is the last program of the fall semester for the Jepson Leadership Forum series. We will be continuing the series in February, and at the close of the program, I'll just give you a little reminder of what that February session is going to be about. First of all, this evening, I have to give some special thanks to some people. First of all, I want to recognize Lily Branch, who is the Executive Director of the Commonwealth Girl Scouts. She was so instrumental and helpful in bringing our guest here this evening. I'd like to, if Lily could stand, thank you. And another organization that I need to thank is WCVE, the Central Virginia Public Broadcasting Affiliate. They are taping us this evening, so we have, I notice my mic says WCVE 88.9 FM. They are going to be rebroadcasting this on December the 4th at 1 o'clock p.m. on 88.9 FM. So when we get to the question and answer segment of the program, if you would come to the mics, there's a mic at the end of each aisle, so that your question can be recorded as well as the answer that is given. It's always a pleasure for me to be able to welcome guests to the University of Richmond and the Jepson School of Leadership Studies. I'm especially pleased this evening to be able to introduce you to Marsha Johnson Evans. Marty, as she likes to be called, is the Executive Director of Girl Scouts USA, which is the largest organization for girls in the world. A former Girl Scout herself, Marty came to the position of Executive Director from a very distinguished 29-year career in the United States Navy, where she reached the rank of Rear Admiral. She is in her role as Executive Director of the Girl Scouts, is bringing really all of the creativity and vision for change that she brought to the Navy in terms of girls and women's issues, and she is really leading this organization, the Girl Scouts of the USA, to be able to adapt and change with an ever-changing world. This is not the Girl Scouts of your mothers, or for us, many of us in the audience. I know for me personally, up until I started preparing for Marty's visit, when I thought about Girl Scouts, I first of all thought about when I was a child and the really cool uniforms they wore. I mean, they just always looked so wonderful with their sashes and their badges. And the other thing is, of course, Girl Scout cookies. I don't know how I survive without Thin Mint cookies from one Girl Scout cookie season to the other. But I now know that Girl Scouts really is so much more than that, and I knew that all along, but I never really stopped to think about what Girl Scouting does for the girls of not only the United States but the world. Let me, just to give you an idea of exactly what Girl Scouting is all about, I'd like to read to you the very brief Girl Scout law. It says, "I will do my best to be honest and fair, friendly and helpful, considerate and caring, courageous and strong, and responsible for what I say and do, and to respect myself and others, respect authority, use resources wisely, make the world a better place, and be a sister to every Girl Scout." I can think of nothing that is more moving than that statement, and that means more to the youth, especially the girls of the world today. So please join me in welcoming Marsha Johnson Evans.
Thank you. Well, I confess it is my fault that we were late, and the reason was I was talking with some of the most amazing women here at the University of Richmond who also happen to have been or are currently today Girl Scouts. And it is always so inspiring to me to hear the stories of what these young women, before the age of 21 even, have already accomplished in their young lives. It is such a pleasure to return to the university. I was last here at the graduation in 1999 with General Schwarzkopf and had known really little about the university, became acquainted with it, and I have to tell you that I can't imagine a better preparatory ground for the future leaders than here, and particularly at the Jepson School. Well, I want to start my talk tonight with a story. Now, after her parents' divorce, a teenage daughter became increasingly rebellious. This culminated late one night when the teen was arrested for drunk driving, and her mother had to bail her out and take her home. The two didn't speak until the next afternoon. Mom broke the tension by giving the daughter a small gift-wrapped box. Her daughter nonchalantly opened it and found in it a small piece of a rock. As only 15-year-olds can do, she rolled her eyes. "Cute, Mom. What's this for?" "Well, here's the card," her mother said. The teen took the card out of the envelope and she read it. And tears started to trickle down her cheeks. She got up. She gave her mom a big hug as the card fell to the floor. And on the card were these words: "This rock is more than 200 million years old. That's how long it will take before I give up on you." Well, this nation's young people need to hear these same words from us. They need to hear that we as a nation have not and will never give up on them. We must be solid as this rock in our commitment to help urban youth succeed. And I'll say it again, we must be rock solid for our urban youth. This sentiment is captured in another real-life example. In this case, a 16-year-old former juvenile delinquent, or offender, I guess is the more appropriate word, who spoke last month at the annual conference of the National Crime Prevention Council in Washington, D.C. Speaking as part of a group called Youth as Resources, she was asked what adults can do to help young people in need of guidance. Now, here's how she responded. First, she said, "Never give up on us." Then she said, "Give us opportunities and responsibilities." And lastly, she said, "Show us how to succeed." Well, we've come together tonight to look at the needs of this nation's urban youth, and I think the young woman has just spelled them out for us. Her message was loud and clear, and we need to respond in equal measure. We will never give up on them, even when we're frustrated, even when they've tried our patience to the nth degree. We will provide them opportunities and responsibilities so they can succeed. And we will walk along beside them along the pathway of success, so we're there for them if they stumble, and we're with them when they succeed. Tonight, I want to look at these three areas as a framework for how we as a nation can deliver on our promise to youth, so that young people in our cities know that we are solid as this rock in our commitment to help them succeed. Let's start with never giving up on young people. I'm delighted to tell you, like the mother of the rebellious daughter I mentioned at the outset of my remarks, and the adult mentor who never gave up on that former juvenile offender either. And today, both are doing well. In fact, the mentor and her protege will serve on a mentoring panel as part of a conference later this month that Girl Scouts of the USA is hosting to train dozens of Girl Scout Council staff members, staff who are implementing violence prevention initiatives all across the country. Too many of us, parents, educators, politicians, media professionals, and so on, when faced with the challenges of the new generation, have become too willing to give up on young people. And that's not only a national tragedy, it's a national disaster in the making. Because never lose sight of the fact that today's boys and girls are tomorrow's leaders. To help them achieve that leadership, we must be rock solid in our commitment to these young people. All, underscore all, of our young people need to know as a nation that we won't give up on them, and urban youth need to hear it more than ever before. Now, the signs are, I think, promising. There are many indications that we are delivering on our promise to many of this nation's 71 million young people under the age of 18. As a result, they will be able to reach adulthood and be able to contribute to their families, their communities, and to their nation as a whole. This is reflected in several key measures of childhood well-being. For example, infant mortality rates are down, teen pregnancy and birth rates are starting to decline. Many families with children are moving off of welfare. Violent juvenile crime, it seems to be receding. Childhood immunization rates are up. More children, young children, are enrolled in preschool programs, and more young people in some cities are completing high school. At the same time, though, a significant number of our young people are still being left out and left behind. Unfortunately, we are not delivering on our promise to all children of America. And I will tell you that as my next to the last assignment in the Navy, I was the head recruiter for the Navy. And of course, many of you know that military service is one of those opportunities where someone can go from a very challenging surrounding and make something of himself or herself. And fully a quarter of the young people were not qualified for military service because they had drug involvement, they had alcohol problems, they had dropped out of school, their physical fitness was not even at a minimal level. So they had no opportunity to take advantage of that opportunity. And, of course, businesses were not interested in hiring those people either for the same reasons that the military wasn't. According to the latest Kids Count data, 13%, or 9.2 million of our children, are growing up with a collection of disadvantages that could curtail, if not entirely impair, their ability to become productive adults. Now consider this from the latest Census Bureau figures. 32%, or nearly 23 million children, are not living in two-parent homes. 21%, 14.7 million children, live in families whose income is below the poverty line of $16,300 for a family of four, despite unprecedented economic gains in the last number of years. 19%, or nearly 13.3 million, are growing up in homes where the head of the household is not a high school graduate. And 15%, or more than 10.7 million children, do not have health insurance. These figures are considered risk factors, and having four or more risk factors in their families puts certain kids in the high-risk category. And guess what? 20% of our young people living in central cities today are in the high-risk category, compared to only 8% in the high-risk category of those living in the suburbs, and 14% living outside the metro areas. So we do have a significantly larger challenge in the urban areas. Well, that's a lot of statistics, I know, but the picture, I think, is pretty clear. Young people in our urban centers are at greater risk than their counterparts in the suburbs or other outlying areas. And that's why it's so important for them to know that there are adults in their lives who care about them, who believe in them, and who will never give up on them. They need to hear some really important things from us. First and foremost, it's smart to succeed in school, that they limit their choices without an education, that it's okay to have dreams and goals and to hold fast to them and to learn to deal with those setbacks and disappointments that are part of every one of our lives. That if someone steps on their toe, to remember that they have four others, and being dissed is not worth dying for. That drugs are a lie. That gangs are a trap. Girls and young women especially need to hear that they can grow strong in body, mind, and spirit. that girls and young women can be whatever they want to be. They can be more than someone's girlfriend or mother, that their bodies are fine just the way they are. That point was made even clearer in a groundbreaking study from the newly launched Girl Scout Research Institute. The study from our new research division of Girl Scouts, entitled Teens Before Their Time, finds that girls 8 to 12 years old today, that their cognitive and physical development have accelerated, but their emotional development often has not kept pace. And that leaves girls, the so-called tweens, pressure to deal with those typically teenage issues, those issues that we associated with being a teenager, well before they find themselves in their teenage years. Adults need to understand that because girls' development is so compressed today, it's normal for 8 to 12-year-old girls to have traditionally teen questions and concerns. And girls need to know that their parents and other adults are listening to them. Girls need to feel comfortable confiding in adults and know that adults will not judge them as too young for their concerns. Disturbingly, the study finds, and this is probably the most significant finding, I think, from the perspective of many who've reviewed it, that we as adults are not listening to our girls. The study finds that girls want and need to speak out about these issues because they're affecting them. But many girls across all socioeconomic groups, across all geographies, whether it's urban, rural, metro, whatever, income, whatever, girls say that their parents are unwilling to listen to questions if the parents have judged that the girls are too young to have those questions. They just shut them out, basically. You're too young to worry about that. End of subject, no more discussion, that's it. And we know that whether their parents want to talk about it or not, the girls are going to continue to talk, and they're going to work through those issues with people that are far less qualified than their parents. Also troubling news, the study shows a steady decline in self-approval, that sense that we feel we're okay as girls get older. Here's what we saw when we questioned the girls. 75% of the third graders, these are roughly 8 years old, 75% said it was okay how they looked. They liked the way they look. 65% of the fourth and fifth graders said they liked the way they look. But by seventh grade, just barely half said they liked the way they look, and it slides down further as they get older. Now, it wasn't all negative, happily. There was a couple of positive notes. Many girls in the study described their academic performance as important to their self-identities, and doing well in school for that age group, 8 to 12, is commonly named by the girl as her most positive quality. However, almost 2/3 of the girls questioned admit that they never or sometimes don't speak out in general if they're afraid they might be wrong. In classroom discussions, in fact, only 38% felt that they were comfortable speaking out. Girls in the study aspire to bright and successful futures and believe those futures are dependent upon their success in school. For them, school is both a source of pride and self-doubt. They understand the pressures they feel as directly related to their futures, and as such, academics empower girls to believe they have some control over their futures. With regard to their futures, the study finds that girls have powerful and positive visions. In addition to a definitive emphasis on the importance of education, girls' vision of the future includes a wide range of career and family options and an expectation of both increased freedom and increased responsibility. Studies like Teens Before Their Time highlight the need for girls to feel comfortable expressing themselves and to be heard by adults. And so what I would say is that all of us adults have to set aside our own discomfort and listen to the girls, and it's surprising what they have to say. Their needs are important, and this study makes it very clear that it's time for all of us to take some time to hear what our girls have to say. Now, Girl Scouting has always provided an accepting and nurturing environment for girls, a place where caring adult mentors listen to girls' views, understand their needs and concerns. Girls grow strong in Girl Scouting, developing strong values, social conscience, and a conviction about their own self-worth. And they grow strong in the experience of being heard. We in Girl Scouts are proud of our nearly 90-year tradition of never giving up on girls. We have remained rock solid in our commitment, and we will remain rock solid in that commitment. We will never give up on this generation or any generation to come. In the same spirit, we in Girl Scouting ask all of you to listen to young people and help them grow strong and never give up on them. And remain solid as this rock in your commitment to the second point that I want to make in this talk. Provide young people with opportunities and responsibilities so they can succeed. Girl Scouts and other girl and youth-serving organizations like it offer contemporary and innovative activities for young people, and they're designed to build skills, values, interpersonal relationships, social conscience, and self-esteem. In short, they're designed with the purpose of giving young people the opportunity to be successful. As you may recall from my second story this evening, the young woman who had been in the juvenile justice system said, "Give us opportunity and responsibility." And that's what we do. And that's what we've always done. We provide opportunities for girls and young women to build character and skills for success in the real world. Now, here's a great example of opportunity and responsibility in action. We have just kicked off a $5 million initiative called PAVE, Project Anti-Violence Education. And it's designed to address just that, issues of violence in young women's lives. And we know that those issues come in many different forms, whether it's domestic violence, whether it's gangs at school, whether it's the personal harassment that occurs one-on-one to these girls. And so we're initiating a project across country that is tailored to the individual settings, to whatever it is that is a challenge for the girl in her own particular community. And with the goal, of course, to do our significant part to help address this major issue of violence confronting young people today. I'm happy to tell you that we have some examples. The PAVE example is one that is being initiated in Missouri, but it will actually roll across the country in the next 3 years. There are some things going on right here in Richmond that are not only inspiring, but they're an example of some activities that are bringing a whole range of diverse opportunities for girls and young women to succeed. Right here in Richmond at the Girl Scout camp, there's a computer lab that's providing hands-on experimental learning with computers, mathematics, science, engineering, and a whole lot more. And then just last week, there was a project called It's Electric, where the Commonwealth Girl Scout Council and Dominion Virginia Power partnered together to help girls get involved, older girls, get involved in learning about electricity and power generation and how that all fits together, something that if you're of a certain age and you're a woman, you absolutely had no experience with because women didn't do science and didn't do engineering. Those are just two examples. Another one very close to right where we are today is the fact that we're giving girls here in the Richmond area, in the Central Virginia area, the opportunity through a girls' sports program to find out that sports are fun and to develop lifelong habits centered around physical activity. And that's a wonderful partnership right here with the university to offer soccer and basketball clinics and to bring our Girl Scouts out to see the women of the university play sports, which, again, if you're of a certain age when girls didn't do sports, back in 20, 30 years ago, pre-Title IX, this is a wonderful, wonderful opportunity to get the girls involved. So these are just a few of the examples kind of close to home of how girls are having the opportunity to be successful and to learn a whole lot of new things. One of the challenges that youth-serving organizations face is how to get these kinds of activities to the youth who really need them. And it takes an enormous amount of vision and creativity to ensure that the kids who need these activities the most, who need the opportunities for success, who need the opportunities for responsibility, to build in that in their lives, it's almost impossible sometimes, it seems, to reach those young people in particularly the core urban areas who need these activities the most. And I will tell you, I just want to tell you about a couple of initiatives that have enormous potential for replicability across the country, and they're so resoundingly successful that we're finding school districts and other public agencies are picking up and finding the funding to make sure that these things happen. One of them is Girl Scouting in the School Day program that actually brings Girl Scouting right into the classroom setting, and the Commonwealth Council and Richmond Public Schools have a partnership where Girl Scout activities actually take place in the school setting, sometimes actually during the school day, sometimes right after school. There's another initiative that is extremely important where we bring Girl Scouting to prisons. Moms are incarcerated, not exactly the opportunity that you would like to build a mother-daughter bonding kind of relationship. And so we take Girl Scouts to the prisons where their mothers are incarcerated, and with the support and, I would say, vision of the prison officials, the incarcerated mothers become the Girl Scout leaders for that one day a month when the girls are actually there. It does so many wonderful things. It obviously builds that mother-daughter bond. It teaches the mothers responsibility, because participating in this program where they get to be with their daughters for a day is very definitely a privilege, one that can be revoked. And so what the prison officials find is that the mothers become model prisoners, remain model prisoners. At the same time, the mothers are learning parenting skills, which, as you can imagine, an incarcerated mother doesn't have much of an opportunity to learn parenting and practice it. She gets that opportunity through Girl Scouting Beyond Bars. The Girls to Women program here in the Richmond Juvenile Detention Center and in the Petersburg Greenhouse Shelter program is a project that, again, takes Girl Scouting where the girls who need it so much are. And it helps those girls develop values based on the Girl Scout law, which Dean Perkins recited to you or read to you. Well, like this rock, these are solid opportunities, the kinds of real opportunities that Girl Scouts and other girl-serving organizations and youth organizations are providing to urban youth every day. Opportunities that enable them to learn and know what it feels like to be responsible, to set goals, and to have that wonderfully positive feeling when you actually achieve the goals that you've set. Every girl and boy in this nation deserves to have opportunities to grow strong in body, mind, and spirit. As you heard, that young woman who's turned her life around and is now in a mentoring project said it was important for us to show her how to succeed. The importance of mentoring today's youth cannot be overstated. It is critically important. It's that one-on-one. It's that one youth at a time that is so important. Now let me ask you a question. How many of you have the word mentor on your business card? I suspect nobody has it. But let me ask you another question. How many of you are parents, uncles, aunts, neighbors, teachers, come into contact with young people in some fashion? We all do. Every one of us does. How many of you have thought about the possibility that mentoring could be as simple as a one-on-one exchange, a conversation that really only happens occasionally, that it's possibly not a lifelong commitment, something you sign up for and are committed every Saturday morning, week after week after week, no matter what? Well, the point is, there are wonderful opportunities to be a mentor of young people, and oftentimes opportunities that you don't even plan. They're pop-up opportunities where you can have a conversation, engage that young person, listen to them, hear what they have to say, and then have a discussion with them. And it's a wonderful opportunity. I also want to pass on to you that with respect to mentoring, and the idea of never giving up, I think that even young people whose lives are so miserably screwed up, who have the worst circumstances, 12-year-old or 14-year-old now, but young woman that I encountered not too long ago who had a child at the age of 12, lives in the projects in Baltimore, was not a Girl Scout at the time, and is now one of our most eloquent spokespersons about Girl Scouts. She found Girl Scouting when her baby was 6 months old. And literally, Girl Scouting has taken her in, and she testified before Congress this last year And, of course, everyone was moved when she said, "When our families forget our birthdays, our Girl Scout leaders remember them." So she's found that opportunity and that mentoring after her life was a pretty big mess. Well, I'm grateful to be able to pass on the importance of giving back to new generations of girls and young women. How fortunate that I get to do so on nearly a daily basis. I have the best job in the world. Service is about giving back, and I love the quote by former Congresswoman Shirley Chisholm. She said, "Service is the rent you pay for your room on the earth." There are so many ways to be a mentor. In Girl Scouts alone, the possibilities are nearly endless. We need women and men. How many of you knew that you could be a man and a Girl Scout? Anybody? Yeah, okay. 5% of our adult members today are male Girl Scout adult volunteers. We need adults who can drive or chaperone girls to and from troop meetings, who can conduct an occasional workshop, who can participate in special events, who can pass on skills that they have, who can, in short, participate with the girls and listen. We need women and men who can lead a brownie troop or a group of older girls on a nature expedition or tour. And we need men and women who can share skills, interests, talents, experiences, and wisdom with girls. Very simply, we need you to help us help girls grow strong. In my experience, helping young people grow healthy and strong is similar in many ways to the painstaking process involved in growing bamboo. Once a bamboo seed is planted, you know you have to water it every day for plus or minus 4 years before the tree even breaks ground. But then when it finally does, it grows 60 feet or so in the next 90 days. Now this leads some to conclude that it only takes 90 days for a bamboo stand to grow, instead of 4 years and 90 days. I guess your point of view is really affected by whether or not you mentor young people. Because if you do, you know that very often the results of your influence aren't seen right away, but they're there nonetheless. Now I have a staff member back at the home office, Melissa, who is a remarkable staff member, works harder than the next 3 staff members combined. But she sometimes finds time to volunteer, to be a troop leader of cadet and senior Girl Scouts. Those are girls from about 13 to almost 18. And these are teenagers from the Lower East Side, which is one of the most challenging parts of the inner city in New York. And she uses the same metaphor to describe mentoring young women. She says, you feel like you've planted a seed. You don't always hear thank you, but you see it and you feel it. After a run, they give you a hug, or when they invite you to graduation, or you see them wearing a T-shirt that you gave them. Now, her commitment is rock solid, and her rewards, in the words of the pretty famous bank card commercial, her rewards are priceless. These are the kinds of experiences that you too can have by being a mentor to a young person. Each of us is the product of the love and care of the people that delivered the promises that they made to us. The mentors and the role models who were rock solid in their commitment to us and who made a difference in our lives as we were growing up. The mentors in my life, and I was very fortunate, there were many, taught me that no one succeeds alone, that one cannot hope to grow in isolation. They taught me, to paraphrase the poet, that no woman is an island entire of herself. The powerful mentors in my life lifted my hopes and gave shape to my dreams, and the only real tribute that I can pay to them is to continue the cycle of giving back. They were solid as a rock in their commitment to help me succeed. And the best way, the only way I think, to truly thank them is by pledging to continue to give hope and enliven the dreams in others. And these are now my promises to keep. And I pass them on to you in the hopes that you will do likewise, that you will be rock solid in your commitment to help the youth, particularly in this nation's urban areas, to succeed. Whoopi Goldberg says she's there to throw little torches out to the next step, to lead the people through the dark. And like her, I believe that each of us can throw torches out for others and lead our young people to the next step. Well, we're throwing out a lot of torches via Girl Scouts and other girl and youth-serving organizations, and we're letting this generation of young people know that we will never give up on them or any generation to come. We're doing our part to help this nation's youth succeed, and we're showing them how. We are rock solid in our commitment to the young people of this nation, but we can't do it alone. We need everyone to become involved. Delivering on the promise to this nation's youth requires all of us to keep evolving, changing, and adapting, because that, in fact, is what's happening in the world. It is evolving. It's changing. And our challenge is to adapt the serving methods and means that we use, to adapt to the funding realities of trying to reach more and more young people who desperately need to be supported, to adapt to the changing political landscape, which in some respects is getting better. I think there's more of an appreciation for what needs to be done. But there are also a lot of challenges as the youth programs compete with other significant programs, health care, public works, in our local, state, and national budgeting priorities. Well, Sam Walton, founder of Walmart, used to ask his associates to raise their right hand and execute a pledge, keeping in mind that a promise we make is a promise we keep. And we make promises in Girl Scouts too, and I'm asking each of you to either help us deliver on the promises we make to girls and young women, or to make your own promise to do something. For heaven's sakes, take some action and make a difference in the life of a young person here in this city, and start today or start tomorrow morning. Make that promise and follow through on it. Make that promise that you will help, even if it's a seemingly small way. You never know how a small touch can have a huge effect. And you can be part of helping this nation's youth grow healthy and strong. We owe it to this generation and to those who follow, because they are going to be our successors in leadership roles, in the economic roles of this country. It's our investment in the future, and in fact, it's really kind of a payback, I think, for the investment that was made in each of us in past years. And we must be nothing less than relentless in our efforts to ensure we deliver on that promise. So I hope you will join either with the Girl Scouts or with some other youth-serving organization, in the words of the Girl Scout promise, to make the world a better place. Thank you.
Thank you very much. I wanted to say that I always thought that those of us who worked in the Jepson School of Leadership Studies had the best jobs in the world. So, no? Well, maybe we share that honor. And I think the reason that we do is because that every day of our lives, we not only give to people in different ways perhaps, but it is still, we give of ourselves to our students and to the young people that we work with, but we also receive so much in return from them. I cannot tell you personally how much those of us who work in the Jepson School learn and gain from just being around their students on a daily basis. So I promise you, if you're not involved in Girl Scouting now, it is something that I believe once you do, you will never want to be away from, because it fulfills you like very few other things can. It is now time for our Q&A. If you have a question for Ms. Evans, if you would come to the mic, she'll be happy to take your questions.
Or we'll take a volunteer pledge.
You're just about to take the pledge. We hear a lot about the decline in civic engagement and traditional organizations. You hear about it. What about Girl Scouting? What are you seeing in terms of numbers, interest, et cetera, and how are you addressing that?
Are you talking about public service or service kinds of projects, or just the numbers? Oh,
yeah.
Wonderful. Well, it's a great picture, and I'll tell you why it's a great picture. In Girl Scouts, we were well over 4 million members back in the heights of the pre-1970 period, when, remember, some of you can remember like I can, back when moms stayed home had every Wednesday afternoon or Thursday afternoon with nothing better to do than to host the Brownie Troop and the Girl Scout Troop, which met in your home. And it was very much a kind of a suburban-oriented, some urban, but real stronghold of Girl Scouting was in the suburbs. Our membership declined rather precipitously when all of a sudden women started having careers and went outside the home to work, and suddenly those afternoons that were available suddenly vanished. But I'm happy to tell you that from that low, 28 years later, this year, we have 2.7 million members, about 900,000 adult members, so for a total of 3.6 million active Girl Scout members today, which is the highest it's been in 28 years. And we have this year the highest number of adult members we've ever had in the history of Girl Scouting. 1 out of every 9 girls in the United States today, ages 5 to 17, are serving active Girl Scouts, which is pretty amazing. 11% of this nation's girls are actively participating in the Girl Scout program and growing strong in so many ways. In some cities, that number is significantly higher. I'll give you an example. In St. Louis, 1 out of 4 girls ages 5 to 17 are Girl Scouts in the whole St. Louis metro area. So we have areas in the country where it's considerably higher. Almost 18% of the girls in New Jersey are Girl Scouts. So it's a geographically, kind of a geographically based area. Now, all of that about the rosy picture of the movement growing and growing stronger is tempered by the fact that we cannot keep up with the growth in certain parts of the country, and it all boils down to one simple fact: we do not have enough adult leaders. And if you look at the top 25 growing urban areas, if you use the USA Today, the periodic report that they, the chart that they publish, we have a very serious shortage in some of these very fast-growing cities where a lot of young families are moving in for economic opportunities, waiting lists of girls to be Girl Scouts, simply because we just don't have that cadre of adults. We have revamped our whole concept of what it means to be a Girl Scout leader, and also what it means to be a Girl Scout, really. The conventional view, the old-fashioned, or the traditional view, I should say, is that it's a troop, and that troop of girls meets every week at a certain time and place. Today, Girl Scouting is so many more things. There are groups that meet around certain topical areas, a horseback riding group or a photography group or a special interest group. There are drop-in centers now in Girl Scouting. We have a wonderful partnership with the Department of Housing and Urban Development, and in communities across the nation under the Communities of Hope program, Hope 6, we actually have public housing units that are set aside to host Girl Scout activities right in the community. And so instead of it being a one-day a week, it's a drop-in every day after school, and we have adult leaders, and in some cases, some of the welfare to work mothers are actually receiving stipends, receiving work experience as they're transitioning to become working mothers. They're working for us, but serving in their community as a kind of stipended volunteer. So a lot of creative ways that we've changed in order to bring more girls into Girl Scouting. We could bring many more girls into Girl Scouting if we had the additional adult volunteers. And we continue to look for creative ways to capture those, you know, let's say you're only willing to commit to do 3 Saturday workshops during the whole school year. Well, we can use that. In the past, we may have said, well, sorry, if you're not willing to commit every week, we're not going to use you. So part of our growth in adult volunteers has been the willingness of people, and I think there's an untapped potential, particularly in the young women in the workforce, to participate in activities like that where they give us a limited amount of time, but it's then captured and used to great effect.
Hi, Marty. Thanks for your inspirational remarks this evening. I'm curious to know what a role, if any, you think the Girl Scouts have in developing public policy.
I think we have an important role. We represent 2.7 million girls, and actually, we believe we represent a broader spectrum of girls' interests. And so we have been active in advocating for increased funding for after school, because we can work in partnerships with school districts, and the funding comes through under the 21st Century Communities of Learning. The money comes through the school districts, and then we essentially contract with the school districts to provide high-quality, educationally sound after-school program activities for girls. We also advocate for values orientation kinds of programs. Girl Scouting is built on a solid set of values as contained in the Girl Scout Promise and the law. And we are being increasingly requested from school districts across the country, as there seems to be in certain places a renaissance of the idea that a values, some kind of common value foundation is important even in public education. And so we're being contracted by school districts to do values clarification kinds of activities, particularly for at-risk girls. That's the most common example. We're advocating for the charitable relief in the tax structure so that people who don't itemize can also get credit for charitable contributions to not-for-profit organizations. We are very, 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 very strong supporters of Title IX. And when it appeared this last year that there was some issue related to Title IX legislation, we, in partnership with other girl-serving organizations and women's organizations, spoke out quite forcefully. So we believe that we have a significant role to represent the interests of girls, and there are some specific issues that we have been very active at the national level in shaping the public policy agenda. We also, because of our reach, we are seen by federal agencies in particular as an avenue for some important program activities. For example, the Department of Health and Human Services has taken on the issue of osteoporosis prevention, and they have, because of the fact that in the adolescent and teen years, that's when the foundation for strong bones is laid down. And the activities, the lifestyle issues of being physically active, doing weight-bearing kinds of exercise, those patterns of behavior appear to be set in those years. The Department of Health and Human Services has come to us in an outreach effort and asked us to partner with them for a program to reach girls from 9 to 12. So we're not only shaping the public policy, but we're also helping to make sure that some of these important initiatives can actually get to those people who need them the most. So we will be partners, as this initiative is announced in the winter, of a major effort to try to get young girls educated about good nutrition habits and also into more and more sports activities.
Good evening. As the father of a beautiful little girl, I find myself in the position, as any parent does these days, of trying to teach her open-mindedness, compassion, understanding of folks that may be different from herself, be it in education, socioeconomic, ethnic background, whatever. And you take organizations like the Girl Scouts, which you want to hold up, as something, this is what you want to look at, this is good, this is an example that you want to set. And then you have a situation where you have your brother organization, which puts you in a little bit of an awkward situation where you're trying to say, here's something that you want to hold up as an example, but yet I want to teach you open-mindedness. And obviously, as an officer in the military, and particularly as a recruiter, you had to deal with the whole don't ask, don't tell issue. And probably 90% of the males in my family have graduated from Annapolis, so I understand that whole issue. And then jumping from the frying pan to the fire, you have that, and now you're in a position where you have a brother organization that's coming under some pretty heavy fire for a similar situation, and certainly that will impact you, and I'm just wondering about your thoughts on that.
Well, You know, I think it's unfortunate when any organization, youth-serving organization that does good work comes under the significant controversy. But frankly, what it's given us, I mean, the fallout from our perspective has been an opportunity to reiterate the fact that Girl Scouts of the USA and Boy Scouts of America are two totally separate organizations. And we have totally different policies. We take a totally different view of issues of sexual orientation than the Boy Scouts. We're an inclusive organization. Any girl, any adult who will make the Girl Scout promise and law and abide by our standards of behavior is welcome in Girl Scouts. So we don't, we have a different policy framework from the very beginning. And I think that what's happened in the controversy, the byproduct is that we have gotten a fair amount of opportunity to educate the American public on the fact that Girl Scouts is an inclusive organization, and we feel very strongly that one of the strongest attributes of Girl Scouting is that a girl has exactly what you described, the opportunity to be in a setting where she has a diverse group of other girls that she's participating in wonderful activities with. She's engaging in the democratic process. We believe that the democratic process is also very important, and from the very beginning in our girl-centered planning, which we do in Girl Scouts, the girls are making decisions based on using the democratic process to arrive at consensus in their group. So it's embedded, that whole concept of the richness, the importance, the value of a diverse membership is embedded in the Girl Scout experience. And you know, for that reason, I think that if a girl and young woman comes through Girl Scouts and is in the movement all the way through, when she gets to be a young woman, she has a very strong sense that she can work with a whole range of people. She's not limited by her own views of people that she can work with, that she can gain valuable input from people who don't look like her, don't sound like her, who don't have the same views as she has. And that's one of the things. I mean, if I were queen of the world, I would love for the military to understand, as we do in Girl Scouts, the value of diversity and how pluralism can be such a rich experience. But I'm not queen of the world, so maybe my next job, I don't know. Oh, I think she has a question. By the way, I hope you'll all buy Girl Scout cookies. Huh? A couple of really good new flavors this year, so. And I should make the point that Girl Scout cookies are one of the principal ways we provide the proceeds, provide Girl Scouting and, to girls here in the Richmond area. So if you support the council through that medium, you are directly helping girls.
One of the things I love about Girl Scouting is that it keeps growing and it keeps getting better. And I pretty much lost touch in the last 15 years or so since I left the board here. But I think about them. And today I heard on the National Press Club, I don't know if you heard Ms. Cuomo speak about Amnesty International, her work with Amnesty International. My first thought when I hear anything good is, what do Girl Scouts have to do with something like this? And I'm wondering, you talk about adults helping girls, but there comes a point very soon in the Girl Scout program where girls are helping other people. And I'm wondering if you could say a few words about what Girl Scouts are doing nowadays to help other people, and also if you partner with other groups, other altruistic groups. If Girl Scouts, for instance, do they have anything to do with Amnesty International? What other groups do they work with to give back? Because they start giving back very soon. But what are they giving back now that's different from what they used to give back? I'm just interested in catching up.
Wonderful. Thank you so much for that question. One of the hallmarks of a Girl Scouts experience, regardless of whether she's a 5-year-old Daisy Girl Scout or she's an 18, 17, going on 18-year-old senior Girl Scout, is service. That is one of the critical components of the Girl Scout program, and we start girls very, very young, building in that concept, and in fact it's in our Girl Scout promise to help others. And so service takes so many different forms in Girl Scouting, and certainly one of the ways is girls do activities, whether in a typical Brownie activity might be, for example, to visit senior citizens' homes and interact and perhaps make table favors for the holidays, or I'm thinking about some that I did as a girl. They're sort of semi-fresh on my mind. But what we do in Girl Scouting is build it into the cycle, and there again the girls often play a role in choosing what service activities, and in the process they become educated on what the community needs are, and then they decide how they might engage in some kind of service. And it's not unusual for them to do several service projects during the course of the year. Another way that service is embedded is as girls move up through the program, there are 5 age levels in the program, we build in more and more of giving back to the girls who are younger than they are. Case in point, we have a program called Read to Lead, and it's a literacy program. We've taken on literacy in a substantial way, because obviously if a girl doesn't know how to read, she's going to have a little bit of a disadvantage in her life. Our youngest girls, they do sort of straightforward reading, fun reading activities and writing activities as well, because we couple reading and writing. As the girls get older, they take on service projects related to reading, and so an older girl, maybe a junior or a cadet, as they get into the 10, 11, 12-year-old, they may establish a reading program at the library where they commit to go every Saturday for a certain period of time, and they're actually reading to the younger kids as a form of service. And as they get even older, they could set up a whole community-based reading program. And so they take on these activities, and as girls, again, progress through the program, they're earning awards. Our Girl Scout Gold Award is the top award in Girl Scouting. And in that award, in addition to doing a lot of skill-building activities, career exploration activities, the young woman, who's typically 15, 16, 17 years old when she's working on her Gold Award project, she has to undertake a very significant service activity, over 50 hours of service involved. But even more important, she has to plan what that activity is going to be. She's paired with an adult mentor who helps her in that planning. Oftentimes she'll have to raise money to accomplish it, and then she'll set about to do the project. And I cannot tell you how remarkable some of these older girls, these young women projects are. We have a national award where we bring together the 10 top projects in the country, and they range from things like 2 young women in Hawaii have set up a bereavement camp where any child or young person who's lost a close relative, typically a sister or brother, possibly a mother or father, is invited to this camp, which lasts a week. These 2 young women raise the money, develop the curriculum by going to educators, a very educationally sound curriculum, really put this thing together, recruited other volunteers to act as counselors in the camp, and it has received national recognition. Another young woman has done a major environmental project building sea osprey nesting platforms in the Chesapeake, has received major accolades from the Department of the Interior. Those are the kinds of service projects which really are remarkable undertakings on the part of a 15, 16, or 17-year-old. But the reason they're able to do these remarkable projects when they get to this stage is that all along the way they've built the skills in planning, they've seen the importance, they've learned the value of service, they've been coached and mentored along the way, they've been helped in setting aspirations and achieving them as they've gone along. And it's really one girl at a time, and that's why I say that if we're going to change the face of the country, and help save some of these young people who are on the brink, it really does require that investing one young person at a time in order to do that. And the beauty of Girl Scouting, because of the program and the way it's structured, at the same time we're helping that young person come back from the brink and get on a new trajectory of life, they're giving back and they're providing the service in the community. So we win in so many ways by something as well structured. It's really inspiring, and I know that in the audience there are a couple of Gold Award Girl Scouts who are here at the university as students, and you know, I can tell you that their projects are equally as spectacular. Yes.
I just recently joined the Girl Scout Council, so one of my major tasks is trying to recruit Asian minorities and so forth. Being here at the United States line now, I kind of look at myself Americanized. I even have problem recruiting my own kind. I guess a lot of times it's the tradition, the beliefs and value. And earlier you talk about leadership, adult leadership, and I think also a leader having visions, and I'm trying to find out whether you could share some experience, success stories about how you get some of these traditional minority groups that may have beliefs that actually held the kids back. Not a bad thing, but just because of more protection or reserve. How do you get the parent to take that first step and say, yes, you know, I want to give the kids try it out? I mean, I guess once they take that first step, it's, you know, the whole idea, the creation, the creativity will come out. But it's that take that first step, not so much of getting the kids up, but to encourage the parents to be an active participant. Can you share any of those success stories?
Yeah, well, first of all, just to your point about recruiting Asians, our national president is the first Asian American woman who is the national president of Girl Scouts. So it's very inspiring, I think, to see that the organization is led by someone who sort of doesn't look like what other, you know, people in past times might have thought Girl Scouts were, which typically was more white female. So I think that's certainly one step. I think it's a multi-part process. One is to get the word out, and we are challenged to use all kinds of media that we haven't used before. Asian language newspapers, Asian radio or Asian TV stations, the normal media outlets that, well, first of all, we haven't used some of the media outlets that have been available. We're just getting kind of savvy about how to get our messages out. That's been a big initiative of the last several years. So what we have to do is extend that to get the exposure of what Girl Scouts are doing, what they're contributing to the community, how girls are developing in positive ways, the difference Girl Scouting is making in the community. So that's one way. I think another success factor in some communities has been recruiting the leaders of that community, educating them to help them understand so that they can help us take the message. A third thing that we've done that has been very successful in some communities is we make Girl Scouting a family experience. It isn't just the girl. And in Southern California, I'm told that they actually have family camping trips where the families come along. It's not, you know, we don't just take your girl and take her out to camp, that strange experience she may not have had before, but we actually invite the families to come and they learn what a great experience it is, and that builds a comfort level. The other thing I think we have to help people understand is that Girl Scouting does build stronger family connections, that it doesn't take the daughter away from the family and make her into this sort of strong, it helps her grow strong, but it doesn't necessarily wrench her away from the family. It actually supports the family because not only do we involve the family in Girl Scouting, but we know that families report, even if they have nothing to do with Girl Scouts, they report better relationships with their daughters. Their daughters become more respectful of authority. Their daughters become less, I guess rebellious would be the word that they would use to describe it. So we have to help get that message across to parents. But I think the best way to do that is by involving them. One of the things that happens in some communities where we haven't had as strong a Girl Scout presence is, for some of us who've come out of the 60s, the old-fashioned community organizing. So we go into, let's say, some of the housing projects, for example, where we want to have a stronger Girl Scout presence. Well, there's really less community fabric that's been developed. So oftentimes when we go into a place like Baltimore, where I was describing the young woman with the child, that there wasn't much of a sense of community there to begin with. So we went into that. The Girl Scout Council in Baltimore went in there, and they really just, instead of just recruiting girls to come into Girl Scouting, they began organizing the community and creating a sense of community. And so Girl Scouting has a wider role there. That's happening along the U.S.-Mexico border in some of the colonias. We're down there in a very strong program called the Border Initiative. And some of these colonias that are sprouting up on the border are pretty desperate kinds of circumstances. And so Girl Scouting is going in there and is really being a force for, along with some other partners that are going in, healthcare organizations, and Texas has a project along the border to bring more services and build those communities. We're a piece of that action too. One of the main points, which I didn't talk about before, but Girl Scouting is part of the community, and so one of the important things is for us to integrate into all of the other things that are happening in the community. And I think that also sets makes a nice framework, a fabric, where we're part of a plethora of things we hope that are coming together in a community. And so oftentimes that builds that view that, you know, maybe Girl Scouting does have something for my daughter, because we make it more of a known commodity to the family who's never seen it before. On the other hand, we have some immigrant communities where girl guiding in the former country has been strong, but it's been associated with the upper class. So it was unavailable to some girls when they were in, particularly some of the Latin American countries. And so when they arrive in the United States and they get involved in Girl Scouting in school, for example, it's part of becoming an American, and it's very exciting in some communities for their daughters to become Girl Scouts, because now they're real Americans in their new home. So it's particular to the community too, the reaction and the relationship of this new idea of Girl Scouting, depending on the family's previous experience. Yes?
I've been listening to your importance of mentoring, and I agree. But I wonder, well, let me put it this way. The mentors in my life never knew they were mentors. I had relationships with people who just did things for me and didn't even think about it. I remember I was in the Boy Scouts, and a troop leader from a entirely different troop came and talked to us, and we got to know him. And for some reason, he took a special interest in me. And he invited me to join his troop to go some camp. And I was very much impressed by his. And he never tried to help me. And he don't think he even knew he was helping me. And the one-on-one is great. But I wonder how many of us are helping other people to make ourselves feel good. I have had people to help me, and I could tell they were trying to help me. And they had this beatific look on their faces, you know. And it was almost like, look, I'm helping you. Appreciate me. And it turned me off completely. Now, I've had exactly the opposite experience. There was a man a minister, who said, any of you who want to talk to me about anything. He was not even at my church. Come and talk to me. And I walked over and I said, Reverend, whatever, Mr. Somebody, I wondered about something and thought a lot about it. And I've read that the founding fathers and the church leaders, especially the Calvinists in New England, they were great God-fearing people. And I said, if God is so good, why should we fear him? And that meant a whole lot to me. And you know what he said? You better fear him, boy. And he turned me off. And what I'm saying is, I'm pontificating, I'm afraid. What I'm saying is, I have helped some people. I've helped some students. And years later, they came and told me that I'd helped them. And I had no idea. So, for goodness sakes, I hate to say this, but don't go out of your way to be a mentor. Now, maybe some of you can do it with aplomb, but I couldn't do it because I'm afraid I would be saying, look, lady, look, sweet boy or girl, I'm helping you. I wouldn't say that, but I'm afraid that I would give that impression. And what I have really appreciated was those people who, I know a student at VCU when I was teaching there. And he came to me 5 or 6 years after he graduated. And he said, you may not know it, but you inspired me to go on to graduate school. And I was taken aback. I wasn't trying to inspire anybody. And I still don't know what I did. And I don't want to find out. Because if I start digging into it, I'm going to take apart this thing and it'll fall all to pieces. So I'm just floating along, you know. Okay, I'm sorry. Let me ask you one thing. Your 3 things, you said people should be given opportunity and responsibility. And I'm sure it was implicit, but I wondered about respect. Those kids, I've got a son, and he is almost middle-aged. But they know so much more than you know they know. And let them know, the girls or the boys, that I respect your opinions. Now, this is implicit, but a lot of people don't. A lot of people say, I'm helping you. And people have done that to me, and I've been turned off. So I don't want to join a mentoring program. If I can help people by being me, I'll try to. But I don't want to go and help people because I feel like I'm doing it for me. I'm sorry, I took up too much time. Thank you.
Well, you know, I have to say that I think your perspective and mine are in sync in many respects, and that is that I believe mentoring occurs all the time, and we just haven't labeled it. I've probably had as much mentoring from bosses that were horrible or that I thought were unskilled, because I sure learned more from some of those experiences. I mean, there were real mentoring experiences in the School of Hard Knocks. I learned how I didn't want to be treated, and that was as valuable in terms of how I learned to treat other people. So I agree with you that there are oftentimes opportunities that we're not even aware of, and we don't know until, we may never know. Yeah. Right. The other point you made about respect, one of the, I think, really strong points in Girl Scouting is the idea that we respect the opinions of even our youngest girls. And that comes out through, I mentioned girl-centered planning, girl-centered activities. We help the girls at a very young age learn that their opinions are valued, particularly in the peer group setting where they work out what they're going to do as a troop. They work out the proceeds of the cookie sale that they keep as a troop. They work out what they're going to do with. They choose the activities within a range. They're guided. Of course, it's important to have guidance. But we start very young to show the girls and the young women that these processes work and they produce that opportunity where their opinion counts. So I think you're exactly right about respect. I'm also thinking, too, that at least in my Navy career and also in my Girl Scouting career, I was always in positions that I was never properly qualified for. It's a long story. It came from being in the Navy when all kinds of new opportunities were open for women. And I learned a long time ago that sometimes that young sailor who knew how to operate that firefighting equipment was a pretty valuable guy there, and I needed to depend on that sailor. And I think that's an important part of what we're trying to do in Girl Scouting, and that's teach girls to have respect for other people and all of their qualities and what they bring to the table, and respect people for what they're contributing. And that's, I think, one of the lifelong lessons in any kind of working environment is you've got to learn that you earn respect by what you bring to the plate, what you contribute. And I think that's an important lesson, too.
Thank you so much. I'm sorry to have to cut this short, but we promise everyone that they will be home or at least out of this building by 9 o'clock. And we are fast approaching the witching hour. And we have one other piece of, I don't want to say business, one really pleasant thing well, actually, maybe two pleasant things that we have to do before we close this evening. Kate, are you backstage? Could you come forward? This is Kate Anderson, and Kate is a senior Girl Scout, and she serves on the board of the Commonwealth Girl Scout Council, and she has some daisies for Ms. Evans. I understand these are the unofficial flowers of Girl Scouts USA. So we're very pleased to have Kate with us this evening to make this presentation. The other thing that I would like to do before we're dismissed is that I want to mention to you that Mrs. Evans did not accept an honorarium from us this evening, which is very, very rare. So in her honor, the Jepson School of Leadership Studies will be making a donation to the Commonwealth Girl Scout Council's Scouts in the School Day program, which she mentioned in her talk this evening. In closing, I want to once again thank each of you for the support that you have not only given us this evening, but throughout the first semesters of our Jepson Leadership Forum Speakers Series this year. The wonderful people that we have had come to us this semester absolutely has, to be perfectly honest, blown me away. I have been touched on so many different levels by so many different people talking about our cities in general, but about our children especially. And I feel so privileged to be here tonight with Marsha Johnson Evans to be able to encourage each of you not to go out of your way to mentor someone, but to just recognize the times perhaps when you have the opportunity to mentor. Oftentimes we don't know and we're not aware. And if we do stay on the alert a little bit, we may be able to even go beyond what we're already doing for the children and the young people that we work with and come in contact with every day. I want to thank you again for coming. I want to remind you that our next program will be February the 5th. On that evening, we will have a panel of arts leaders who will be talking about revitalizing urban centers through the arts. And so we hope that you will join us for that on February 5th and that you will have a safe journey home this evening. Thank you very much.
take my